Welcome to episode 2 of the podcast. As always, I'm your host, joined by my co host, Adrian.
Hello, people.
And Adrian, we got a real special guest today.
Yeah, we got a special guest today.
So, who do we have in the house with us?
Everybody listening, I would like to introduce you to Will Bridges. Will, go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners.
Hey, everybody. Josue and Adrian, you guys are too kind to give me a nice introduction such as you have. I certainly appreciate that. When I got the opportunity to be able to join your podcast, cleared my schedule.
Man,
I'm a busy man, but
cancel your date and everything.
hey, to be able to be a guest on your podcast and to be able to get to know you on a more personal level, both of you actually, and to be able to hear your story, oh man, I wouldn't miss that for the world. So I appreciate the invite very much.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you coming, man. And well, just so the listeners get a little bit about you, maybe tell us how long I've known you for and maybe what you do for a living.
We have known each other now for about 4 years, and we've had some good times together. We've been able to talk a little bit about life, about just things that affect us as man, and we've even talked about our personal pursuits in life. Like yourself, I also have a vision or personal goals that I like to achieve myself. And my particular pursuit when it comes to podcasting is I really believe that everybody has a story. I really believe that everybody wants to tell their story. At least most people do. Mm-hmm. There are some that are reluctant, and that's okay. But for those that are willing to tell their story, man, the world's listening. And not only are they listening, people want to take away valuable lessons.
Yes, they do.
From the successes and or failures of people's stories. And so your story, and that's why I'm so excited about today, is because I'll get a chance to listen to your story as well as your listeners and be able to take away some meaningful things to it. So again, I'm excited about today. I'm looking forward to our discussion, and I can't wait. I'm stoked.
Awesome, Will. Again, we're glad to have you, and I know you and Adrian had some questions for me when I decided to make the podcast.
Yeah, we do, Adrian. If you'll give me the honor, I'd like to go first on this.
Go for it. Yeah.
Sway, a lot goes into choosing a name for your company. I know that very well. Anyone that's listening to this knows that as well. There are some people out there, Josue, that just choose a name randomly because it sounds good or because it's catchy. And that's okay. If that's their process on choosing a name that represents themselves, their business, or their vision, that's okay. But there are a lot of people or a lot of companies that put a lot of meaning into the name that they choose to represent themselves. So I guess to start, our first question is, which brand name have you chosen to tell your particular story?
Well, after many weeks of debates in my own head, going back and forth with it, I have finally got a name. And that's why in the last episode, I actually didn't even have the name yet. But the name I have finally decided to stay with is Behind the Barber.
Oh, that's smooth. Very catchy, very catchy. But I'm sure there's a story behind it. And that being the case, what does the name Behind the Barber mean to you personally? It's going to mean a lot of different things to different people. Mm-hmm. But during this interview, we want to make sure we understand what it means to you first, since you're the one that actually selected the name.
Yeah, definitely. Well, to me, what it means is that to every profession, whether you're a barber, an accountant, a hairstylist, a waiter, a customer service representative, whatever you are, I don't think that just defines you as a person. I think that everybody has a story behind them.
For sure.
So definitely with me just being a barber, I don't want people to just know me as a barber, somebody that cuts the hair. With my customers in the future, I definitely want them to get to know me, get to know my story. And then the another thing too, like another way that I guess I thought about getting a name too is I was actually watching my brother who does films, and he's a producer, and he does like budgets for like small indie films and so on. Mm-hmm. He watches a lot of movies, and he watches a lot of behind the scenes. So one thing that really caught my eye is one day he was watching behind the scenes of some movie, and then I was seeing like all the outtakes that happen. A movie could have an awesome scene, but maybe they tried it dozens of times or 100 times before it came out right. And that really, like, when I heard that, like, man, that just like snapped in my head. Like, I should do behind the barber.
That's your
Because,
inspiration.
yeah, definitely. Because not only is there a story behind every barber out there, or anybody who's working in whatever profession you are, also behind the barber has meaning because it's not just like a movie where it's all pretty for that hour and a half. To get that hour and a half of a beautiful movie, or in my case, to get that 30 minutes to create a amazing haircut, there was a lot of work and sacrifice to be done.
We appreciate hearing this. Adrian, perhaps you can also attest to this. You know how sometimes people will when describing their profession or what they do in life, we hear it all the time. I'm just a customer service rep, or I'm just a dentist, or I'm just a this, or
I'm just here for the check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's where a person is in their life, again, we're not here to be judgmental, but the thing that you said, Sway, about you being a barber, you're not just a barber, and your name means a lot more, and it tells that story as to what's behind that.
Yeah, so it sounds like you were going for a deeper meaning than for the podcast. Like it's the name, but it also has a deeper meaning than the whole barbering culture for you.
Yeah, definitely. And not to knock any other names, but I didn't want to go with something simple. I wanted, because, for example, I could have gone with just the simple thing that a lot of people do. For example, Joe's Barbershop or Jose's Barbershop or
Josue Cuts or something like that.
I didn't want to do something simple. I wanted something like when people see my podcast that catches their attention. Because behind the barber, to me, that just sounded like mysterious. Like, well, what's behind it, or what's the secret behind being a barber, or what are?
Just keep that like mysterious theme going. Now, I know you said that you debated on it for weeks, and you went in a little bit about how you got the idea from watching the behind the scenes with your brother. But what I want to know is what key factors influenced you on that selection for Behind the Barber?
Well, I got to say one thing, and it kind of worked in my advantage because I really like the name I got. A simple process of elimination. Because there was a bunch of barbers that I even sent to you guys, barber podcast names, I'm sorry, that I really liked. So one thing was just simply process of elimination. There was some names for the podcast that I really, really liked. But I ended up searching them, and maybe somebody already had a podcast by that name, or somebody already had a Instagram page by that name.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of hard to be original nowadays because a lot of people.
There's so many people.
Too many handles out there. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many people in the world, man, that maybe have somewhat of a similar idea. So that was definitely a factor, and one thing that really helped me out too is I'm really big on running things by my friends. Ultimately, of course, we each have to make our own decisions and say, this is what I'm going to use. But I like to run things by people to get their ideas on what they think.
Just get some feedback.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Some of the greatest companies have been started by consultation with others. You know, sometimes you could be in a kind of in a vacuum and kind of locked down. You can't really think through or see the vision that it should go. And the fact that you reached out to your friends, that's good. That's a good sign of someone who has business sense.
Yeah, to me, it reminded me a lot of the business sense. And even if we're not talking like big corporations or banks or whatever, just simply go to a lot of fast food chain restaurants will do it. They'll say, hey, please take this survey. You'll get a free burger if you do it.
Yeah, they're just looking for that feedback, that constant feedback.
That's why they want to do it. They're willing to pay or give something away for free just to get an outsider's perspective on how their business is running.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's why I ran it by people, because maybe in my mind it sounded amazing, but to everybody else it was the stupidest idea in the world.
No, it wasn't. It definitely wasn't.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer on running things by your friends, and really one big thing too is I tell my friends too on things I don't want them to powder me up or whatever. I just want them to give me the truth. What is your honest opinion? Don't just agree with me. Don't be a yes man just because you're my friend.
Well, I'm going to give you the truth right now. The name Behind the Barber, that's hot.
Man.
That's hot.
It's legit. I think we all came to a conclusion. I'm going to be honest with you. You know I didn't like it in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I have grown to love it.
Yeah, man. I knew it'll grow on you, dude.
Yeah.
I knew you'd come
Well,
back.
now that I'm finding out more, the process
Yeah.
you went, and then how you say it has a deeper meaning, I like it, man.
Yeah,
It's a good name. I feel like it's a good fit for your podcast. And now that we went over some factors of how you thought of the name and why you chose that name, I know you want to have a large audience, and that it'll come eventually with time and time.
Mm-hmm.
But is there a particular audience that you want to, I guess, attract with the podcast?
Well, you're right. Eventually, I would like to have a larger audience. And with that being said, I mean, some of the main people I'd want to focus on is, of course, barbers, obviously,
Of course.
hairstylists, anybody that's self-employed, anybody that's working maybe a 9 to 5 that hates it, that wants to
Check.
yeah, anybody working a 9 to 5 that doesn't like it, even if they don't want to do barbering, if they want to do something else, but they're afraid. But I gotta say, I think the main target audience that I guess I want to get to, because I really wish somebody had given me this advice, is maybe young guys and girls in high school that are seeking to pursue barbering or some kind of self-employment. And the reason why is because in high school, like right away, they tell you if you don't go to college, you're not going to be nothing. If you don't work at this corporate job with these benefits, with this pay, you're not going to be nothing. You're not going to be happy. You're not going to be able to take care of your family. And years ago, when I checked on the internet, when I Googled what do barbers make, that number scared me, man. That number scared me. I'm like, how are these people living off of this, supporting their family? I think it was something like 25,000, if I remember correctly. And I saw these guys that have families, and they say, "Yeah, I just work and I support my wife and kids." Like,
that was back then. You say,
yeah.
So definitely with inflation and stuff like that, it's not a lot nowadays either.
Yeah, definitely. So now that I've done the math, spoken with other barbers on the potential as far as earning, I do want to reach out to young guys before they head out to college. I would really like to target a lot of teenage guys and girls in high school that are maybe on the fence and don't want to go for the typical corporate job and work a 9 to 5 all day in a cubicle, just surrounded by 3 walls or so on. I really want to let them know that there is more than, you don't have to go to college for 4 years, 8 years, get in mountains of debt to do something that you like.
Got you. So your whole purpose then is to educate persons and give them a viable alternative to being able to enjoy a career, provide for their families, and find satisfaction and enjoyment in what they do.
Exactly, man. Because you always, for sure, you want to be able to support yourself. Like I mentioned in the first podcast, happiness ain't gonna pay the bills, man.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's key. And now I have learned that you can actually make a really good living as being a barber. I did the numbers, and I did some modest numbers. And as long as I get clientele, I could actually be making more than my job, which in my mind, I thought I would never be able to do. I didn't even think that was possible.
Sway, I go back to my days of high school and the various careers that I was told to pursue. Doctor, lawyer, or to be a teacher. Those are the ones that I was constantly pressured to embark on in my life. Not once did anyone ever tell me, become a barber.
Very true. Yeah. Same thing with me. Yeah. No one ever told me to become, like you say, it's always doctor, like that's like the high one, doctor, lawyer. It's always something like with an education. Yeah. No one ever pursues barbering.
Exactly. And I guess I had that wrong mindset before too. And I never thought negatively of it. I've always thought of it as a cool job. Like you get to hang out, listen to music, or a bunch of guys talking. You don't have to wear a suit and tie or something to work.
Yeah.
I always thought it was a cool job, but unfortunately, I had the misunderstanding of thinking that they didn't make more than $25,000.
Now, just a disclaimer for the listeners: we're not bashing education or school systems.
Yeah,
I think it's awesome to get an education to further yourself, and I think school's awesome. But speaking personally, school's not for everyone.
Yeah,
so
definitely. It's not for everyone, and again, it is definitely, you can really go far, make a lot of money, get a lot of jobs. It is necessary to go to college or university, but it is not necessarily to make a living.
One thing about all these professions that are glamorized or put into the fore, every profession needs a nice haircut.
Exactly.
And you need a professional, an educated professional, to be able to provide the quality of haircut or service that will allow these other professions to look their best. And so,
Exactly. So that's where I'm going to play my role.
very nice.
That's where I come in.
Yeah, so I got to ask you, since you're now associating yourself and your vision with this name, which we agree is a very nice name, behind the Barber, but this name is not familiar to the world at this point. What message do you want your brand name to evoke in the minds of your listeners? Like the people that are listening right now, what do you want them to take away?
One thing I do want to take away, them to take away, is for them to do their research on certain things, like the name behind the Barber implies that there's some depth, and it's not just superficial. There's something behind that profession. So I want them to take that in mind too. But also the message I want to let them know too is really. And again, I haven't been working for 30 years like somebody, like somebody that's been several people. I mean, a lot of people work 30, 50 years before they get to retire, and that's just normal. And a lot of people hate their job for their entire life. And I really want people to know that you can actually pursue your dreams and actually make a living and enjoy life. Because that, again, going back to school, like they let you know that if you're not going to college, your life is going to suck, basically. You're never going to be able to support a family. So I want them to know to really do their own research and let them know that it is possible for you to actually pursue something that you want to do and make a living and actually enjoy going to work.
Man, you know how many people are listening to this right now and who are, if they fully understood what you just said, you know how many people out there are thinking, man, maybe I should quit my job.
Yeah, I just want to say it's a little inspiring, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, don't quit your job right now, 'cause I'm not going to take care of you, man.
I won't do it right now. But it makes you think, is there an opportunity for me to be able to evaluate my situation, think about what I really want to do in life, and can, whatever it is that you want to do, can it help you to support yourself? And if you have a family, a wife or kids or a husband, can it help you to care for them and at the same time be happy? Because I don't have any hard statistics on how many people are currently unhappy with their job, but I would not be surprised if that percentage is very high.
Me neither. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Cause
I mean, if I had to take a wild guess, I would say over 75% of people hate their job.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
yeah, I would think the numbers would be high, like you say, Will. Because I mean, just being at work, and I mean, just as far as us, you can tell like a coworker sometimes you hear them mumbling, or they tell you personally like they're just. Sometimes they just don't like being there. You know, they'd rather be out doing something else, whether it be with their family or just I don't know, anything else. So
Yeah,
the numbers are high.
Yeah, it's some high numbers, man. I know. I was actually surprised when I found out how many people leave my job every year. Like I talked to, because it is very hard to get in. From what I hear, they do hundreds of interviews to hire like a group of like 10, 15 people. Hundreds of interviews. And then I was thinking, I was like, the class I got hired with, it was about, I want to say about 2.5 years ago. I got hired with about 20 people. And I want to say maybe like half of them have left.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to be one of them. And in my mind, like, I was like, why are these people leaving? Before I wanted to pursue this, I was like, man, why are these people leaving? This is like an awesome job. People would kill to have this job.
They just weren't in love with it, I guess. They just weren't.
Yeah, and a lot of them went back to their other job, which paid less, but maybe they didn't have to put up with people's attitude on the phone for 8 hours a day every day.
You know, people go to work Monday through Friday on average, and when they come back from the weekend, one of the very first things they say when they get back to work on Monday is, "I can't wait."
Can't wait for Friday, man.
Yeah, and that, you know, granted, you know, not that everybody hates their job. Yeah. And as you mentioned earlier, we're not knocking education, we're not knocking employment, but it does show that there is a large number of people who will really want to take the position that you've taken, that you're about to take, and be able to do something that you really want to do. And I think people, as people listen to you, Sway, people are going to believe in what you're doing and support what you're doing because you're doing something that you want to do. And how many people can actually say that in life?
Not many. Not many. I think people do what society tells them to do, or what their parents pressure them to go to school for, or what their teachers pressure them to go to school for, or highly influence them.
I definitely believe that. I definitely feel like people do things
Yeah.
like based on society, like you say, like you're supposed to go to school, you're supposed to further your
Yeah.
education, and then you're supposed to work at a
Yeah.
40-hour job, 40-hour a
Yeah.
week job, Monday through Friday, and work there for 30 years, and then retire, do
Yeah.
retirement, and all that stuff.
Have
But
kids, white picket fence, and
yeah,
everything.
yeah, all that stuff. But it's
And
like well, I don't know the saying. I don't. But there's a saying out there. I'm not gonna say it correctly, but it's once you start working, it's something you love. You stop working, something like that.
oh yeah,
I
yeah.
totally butchered it, but
What is it,
you know
Will?
what I mean.
What
You
is
will.
it?
Do you know what
You
I'm
know.
saying?
Ah,
It's
Oh.
something like you stop working after that. I don't know, but it's
Once
just
you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your
yeah.
life.
There you go.
That's the one.
Yeah.
It's true though, because I
Yeah.
mean, I have a job and I work, but it's
Yeah.
not something I love. And
Yeah.
like you say, you're inspiring people, and you're gonna start doing it something you love. So that's not gonna be work for you. You're gonna want to wake up
Yeah.
and go
definitely.
there.
you know, after this podcast, the unemployment rate's going to jump up about 20%.
For real.
You know, I got a question
Yeah.
now, Sway. You know, think about, and I'm not going to put this company out there on Front Street, but I'm going to say their name because I love their product. I'm going to use the name McDonald's. Now, people listening may right now be going, McDonald's is the worst fast food restaurant on the planet. I don't agree with that. But when you think about the name McDonald's, most people think French fries or Big Mac or Quarter Pounder. But that's not what the brand name represents. McDonald's represents convenience,
Mm-hmm.
service, consistency, those types of attributes.
It does, yeah.
Right.
Never thought of it like that, but it does.
That's why so many people go there, because they
Yeah.
know that every time they go, no matter where they go, they could be in the middle of nowhere. But they know if they see those golden arches, they're going to get the same service, the same price, the same convenience.
And like
that
you
they
say,
would.
consistency. Like the food's always gonna taste the same. Like no matter what McDonald's you go to, the Coke's always gonna be good. The fries are gonna be delicious. And
Yeah.
of course, the burgers. I mean,
And that's what that brand name represents. Now, with that being said, what is your plan to build trust and confidence in your brand behind the barber with your audience?
Well, I think trust and confidence, that definitely is it's very important for people to continue to listen to it. And one thing that I think is going to help is, I mean, I flat out said in the beginning is I am not a barber yet. So I want people to know, don't take my word as gospel. Like don't just think everything I say about barbering is correct, because I'm not in that industry. And I think by me admitting that, and maybe later on when I talk about a topic and maybe I find out I'm incorrect, I mean, I'll be the first to say that, hey, I was incorrect about this topic. Now that I am now a barber, I see that this is a better route to go instead of the former route. So, and one thing too, I mean, to let people know as far as the honesty, well, you know, now, I mean, we didn't script all of this. I don't have nothing written down here with all my sentences. What you're hearing is what's actually in my mind. So that's the message people are going to get. They're going to get the truth.
You know, companies built their whole reputation on things like honesty and integrity.
yes,
And Sway, for us to hear, for your audience to hear that you're going to be transparent. You don't know everything. This is a journey for you. And along that journey, you're going to be as real and open with your audience as possible.
Yeah, and one thing I think people can really get trust on is, what's that term, sugarcoating, right? Or whenever you tell people what they want to hear.
Right.
One thing that people can really know too is, I mean, on the first episode, I went straight up off on the first episode knocking bad customer service. And I went in that and I was debating, should I say that? Because I know a lot of barbers are going to get offended because maybe they know that their customer service isn't up to par. The barbers that are good barbers and provide good customer service, I mean, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, right on. I see that is lacking in this industry. And I know it's not just me, because I've heard motivational speakers who are barbers or barber professionals who have big chains of hair products or so on say that on their podcasts or YouTube videos. They plain out say that customer service is horrible now. And again, not everybody, because I've had very good experiences with some barbers, but for the majority, it hasn't been great. And going back to episode 1, I actually started talking about bad customer service. So that in itself should give the audience, let them know that I am being real. Because if I wanted to say, if I just wanted to get, if I was all about getting subscriptions and getting barbers to follow me, I mean, I could have just simply just powdered the barbers up and let them know, man, every barber I go to is amazing. This industry is amazing. Nothing could be improved on because it's perfect.
Mm. You know, Sway, the fact that you are building, companies, Adrian, like to talk about their core values. And there is not one successful company that exists. I don't care if it's a small company, a sole proprietor, or a massive, major global company. If they're successful, at the very foundation of what they do, customer service is there. And that customer service just doesn't apply in service-oriented type of jobs that we commonly think of, but that even applies in the realm of barbering. And if you make core customer service the cornerstone of your business, your brand will.
Yeah, it's everything.
Yeah,
everything.
It's absolutely everything.
Awesome.
Absolutely everything. In addition, Sway, how do you think podcasting, because you've chose this medium of podcasting to kind of grow your brand or to take it to the next level. How do you feel podcasting would do that?
Because I think it's going to attract the right people. And again, not saying that YouTube doesn't or so on. I made a joke that we're too ugly for YouTube, and maybe that's true or so on.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
Speaking to the choir, man. Nah, but the reason why I chose podcasting is because we live in an age where everybody is very busy. Especially me, when I think about going to school and working and still doing all my other activities that I do outside of school and work, I am going to be extremely busy in 2 months. I am going to be very busy. So the reason why I like podcasting is because it is something that you could download at home. If you have a bad service provider, you don't have to worry about having bad reception whenever you're driving or so on. And with audio, the beautiful thing about audio is you can listen to it while you're doing other things. So if people are very busy nowadays, going to school, working full time, they got kids, whatever, or they're running a business, well, they could be listening to something and building knowledge and information while they're doing chores, while they're driving to work, while they're driving to their job that they hate.
Yeah,
they can
right.
get some motivation.
Very nicely said. Because video, as it has its place.
Yeah.
But video requires that you stop whatever you're doing and focus your attention on the video, where podcasting, vocal podcasting, doesn't require that you stop your life.
Exactly, because I just think about it now, like our last podcast was about an hour. Like somebody who is truly busy, who's maybe going to school, starting their business, has a family, whatever. I mean, for them to sit down, stop everything they're doing, look at their phone or TV for a whole hour to get some information, that's kind of tough.
Yep.
Like a lot of families even struggle just eating dinner together, and I'm gonna take away all their attention for an hour's worth of information. That's why podcasting is better, because you can, in my opinion, it's better for the busier person.
And something can also be said about the power of words in a voice. And podcasting, audio podcasting, delivers that more effectively than any other form of podcasting. So nice job on that.
And I think one other thing too is, I know I always hear like older people kind of complaining about us younger millennials, so we don't have vision or so on, because everything's laid out in a TV. They didn't have to do it like back in their day where they had to read a book and imagine it. So I think podcasting is good too, because while you're listening to it, you're not seeing something and focus on it. Your mind is drifting away, and maybe you're envisioning you pursuing your dream job while you're listening to it. So it'll allow for your mind to kind of maybe go to that subject that we're listening to. And maybe in your mind, you're visualizing doing this too, putting in your 2 weeks notice. You're visualizing you pursuing whatever dream job you have.
There you go. Very
Yeah,
nice.
for sure. That makes a lot of sense. And now I know that you say you're not a barber yet. You're going to be pretty soon, though. And I know the listeners know you have a podcast. But at what point would you say you are you at right now, as far as getting your message, your story, and your vision, and of course your brand behind the Barber out to the millions of listeners in the podcasting world? Would you say like phase 1 or?
Wow, man, I am. This is 101.
I know. I got some
Man.
still in the chamber. I got some to stump you, man.
Yeah, dude. Oh man, that's a good question.
Well, of course, we're just beginning the podcast.
Yeah, but I think we're so new into this. I mean, I still haven't even gotten approved through Apple. Maybe by the time this episode comes out, I would have been approved through Apple, but I've already submitted my information to Apple. For sure, right now I'm on SoundCloud, but I just barely started up my Instagram account for the podcast, so everything is very new. I think I maybe have like right now like 10 people that I'm following on Instagram.
Hey, big things have small beginnings.
Yes, definitely.
And you're starting your journey. This is a journey. This is not going to be a 1 month or a 1 year journey. This sounds like this is going to be a lifelong pursuit.
Yeah, definitely. So the pursuit, I mean, from now up until August the 8th, you're going to hear me working at the job I still don't like and the anxiety I hear. And then you're going to hear the next phase of the journey, which is me learning the craft and the struggles too, because I'm be going to school and working, being super busy with everything I got going on. And then you're going to hear the third phase, which is where I'm actually a barber. And then good at my craft, getting clientele.
You know what's nice way is that oftentimes, when we kind of tap into somebody's life, we often tap in when they've made it to that pinnacle of their life. Very, very seldom do you get a chance to experience the ups, the downs, the frustrations, the happiness, the successes, the failures that somebody goes through to achieve their dream. And it sounds like what you're willing to do, and we appreciate this very much, is you're going to take us on that journey with you. And you're going to be transparent about your learnings and all the things that you had to overcome and the challenges you face as you pursue this ideal dream job of yours. And your audience, no doubt, appreciates that.
Definitely, man. And you brought up a good point, too, how people just kind of see the final picture. And one thing I thought about, too, is like I follow a lot of successful people on Instagram and podcasts, and they've inspired me so much, too, by hearing their story. But one complaint I hear from them is like their people will leave negative reviews saying, oh, you're just lucky. Or your parents helped you a little bit to start off. So people really down credit everybody because they're just looking at the final image. They're just looking at the millionaire who's driving a Lamborghini. But they didn't see the actual 20, 30 years that they might have had to hustle, like working 2 jobs, taking care of a family, going to school. They didn't see all that. So yeah, again, this is why I want the audience to be able to see the whole journey.
There you go. Very nice.
Yeah, a lot of times, like you say, the behind the scenes, the journey doesn't get glorified as much as the final product is the result.
Yeah, definitely. And then, for sure. And then, because one thing, like, I've told some of my friends about me being a barber. I haven't told everybody yet, but they're all saying, like, man, dude, that's awesome. Like, I wish I could do that. Like, but maybe their circumstances don't allow them to take that risk at the moment. But when I'm hopefully become a very successful barber and hopefully maybe one day open up my shop. I'm not sure if that's the route I want to go yet. But if I go that route, like I don't want people to think, wow, you're just so lucky you get to do your dream job. I'm like, bro, luck has nothing to do with it. It is all hard work, planning, and taking risk.
Sweat, blood, and tears. Absolutely. Absolutely. Cat's out the bag, though. You say a lot of people don't know that you are, your dream job is to become a barber one day. Yeah. This podcast kind of brings that to the fore now. So.
Yeah. Now you got to tell everybody. Everybody knows now.
Yeah. Well, actually, I've told, man, and you know what, man, I've been very surprised. I've been very fortunate because a lot of these other podcasts I hear about people pursuing their dreams in other avenues, not in barbering, but in some kind of self-employment or business. I hear from a lot of people, and it's unfortunate that a lot of their friends and family, right away they start knocking it. They're like, man, why are you going to do that? Go to school, become a doctor. Why are you going to open up that store? That's stupid. And for me, it's been the complete opposite. I've been very fortunate to have friends, even that they know I have a good job. Like when I told them my dream right away, they're like, man, dude, that's awesome, dude. I think you'll do good in it. So I've been very fortunate in that thing. But I got to say, the only person I haven't had the courage to tell, actually, well, for sure, nobody at my work knows because I haven't put in my 2-week notice. But I'll tell them, no problem. The only person I haven't told, and I'm actually a little afraid to tell, is my dad.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I'm going to be 28 years old, man. I'm still afraid of my dad, dude.
Why is that? Do you think he'll react a certain way, or is it just...
I got a respect for everybody in my family, but my dad, it's just... Well, he came to this country when he was about 16. He came here, I mean, trying to escape poverty from Mexico. He worked here uh, without having any papers. He actually lived the American dream, got a house, was able to support his family. My mom didn't have to work. He supported 7 kids. He supported his mom back in Mexico. But he had to work a very, very hard job as a mason. So he would be a bricklayer. He would work with stone, blocks, very heavy things. So his body's like pretty tore up now. His shoulder's gone. His back's not good. So he had to make a lot of sacrifices to come to this country to give me a better way of life. So he was like so happy when I went into banking at 18. He was like, "Oh man, like." He was like just so proud that I did that because in his mind that is the American dream to work in a corporate job.
Oh, okay. So you might feel like you might be a little
Yeah,
disappointed that you're gonna leave that good paying career.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it might not happen. You might be proud still. You never know.
yeah,
You never know.
Especially if you demonstrate to your dad that no matter what you do in life, as long as you apply the principles of work ethic that he's taught
yeah,
you and
definitely.
showed you over the years, if you apply that in your pursuits as a barber or any other profession that you may
Yeah,
decide to pursue in the future, even though your dad may or may not still be happy with the fact that you may leave your current job, perhaps he will still respect the fact that you listened to him as you were growing
yeah,
up and you've in a sense become like him as a worker.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely. And you use that term American dream,
yeah,
and I know you said that he came over from Mexico trying to pursue that. And I feel like by you quitting your job and pursuing your own dream, I feel like that would be more of an American dream, and he would be proud of that.
yeah,
Yeah,
Because you're not working for anybody. You're basically working for yourself and
exactly.
making your own money, making your own schedule. And I just feel like, to me, that would be more like
Wow.
I feel like he would be more proud of you doing that. And in a way,
Yeah.
in a way, I just
I hope that's his
yeah,
reaction.
you
I
hope
hope you
yeah,
don't.
for sure. Gotta
give me some, don't give me a spanking. Or
uh,
nothing. But one thing that when I did this, man, I still have pretty good memories as far as when I would work with him. But very young, he took me to work. Um, we're in South Texas, so there's a lot of construction going on and so on. But as far as that, like I remember he would take me to work, probably as young as like 10 years old. I was a 10-year-old kid on his side jobs. He would work at a company Monday through Friday in the sun, laying brick or block or stone all day in the sun, 100-degree weather. And Saturday and Sunday, he had side jobs.
oh wow, so he worked every day.
Literally every day. The only time I saw my dad not work is when he had surgery one time. All my memory of my dad is like him working.
Ah,
And I remember vividly when I was actually thinking about quitting the job, it came to my head. I'll never forget it too. I was working at the center. I was like super tired. I was a kid, and he was just like pushing me. Oh, we gotta go faster. You gotta work fast. You gotta be man. You gotta be strong. And then one thing he told me is, "Mijo, I'm doing this not so you can do it, but I'm taking you here so that way you don't pursue this." So in a way, he was like making me hate it,
yeah.
so that way I could achieve for something bigger.
you know, Sway, the your audience that's listening, there are some who not only work one job, probably two jobs, maybe in three jobs, and they have a family to care for. And it's as if, like most, in that rat race, so to speak, that hamster on the
On the wheel.
wheel, and life just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And yet, how many people in life can actually say, going back to what we talked about earlier, I've actually done my dream job? You know, most people, when they're younger, they have a chance to go from job to job to find out what they want to do in life. But as you get older in life, I heard one person once tell me, don't let roots grow while you're at this job. And I said, what do you mean? Because as you get older in life, the longer you're with a certain job, the more roots you begin to settle into that job.
Oh, wow.
And most people may think that's a good thing, but when you're not happy with your job and you start to develop roots, you're stuck,
Yeah,
or it's hard to get out. And yet you're at that age in your life where you feel like I still have an opportunity to do something I really want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I am still young, of course. I'm not talking like an old man or nothing. I'm 27 still. But I say like even if you're 50 years old, 60 years old, let's just say the average. I don't know what the average is. Let's just say if you live to 80. But I mean, I'm gonna target younger people because it's gonna be much easier for them to pursue it when they're younger and have less debt, don't got kids. But even if you're 60 years old and you hate what you're doing and maybe you're retired, well, why not still pursue your dream job? If you still got another 20 years in there, why are you just gonna sit back and hate what you're doing for the next 20 years? Yeah, maybe those past 60 years passed you by, but why do the next 20 years have to not be enjoyable also? So I don't think that it.
So there's always like some
Yeah,
kind of hope just to
yeah,
keep pursuing
yeah. I
what you
mean,
want to do.
there's an ideal time. You want to do it when you have less debt. I mean, I did it. Unfortunately, once I got my house, car, and everything, but
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
an
of
ideal
course.
time. But I don't think there's an excuse. I mean, if you really want to do something, you're gonna pursue it, and don't look at old age as something stopping you, man. Because there's a lot of people that work till they die.
That's definitely true. That's definitely
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, very motivational. Something to think about.
Yes. Now, what are some of the topics that you'll feature on your upcoming podcast that you hope will possibly give your brand more, I guess, a wider recognition and acceptance by the listeners, by the audience?
Well, I know we touched on just a few last time, like customer service
Yeah,
and
those are the.
bringing technology into the work area. But I also want people to know that you can use podcasting as a platform.
Definitely, it's become a huge platform that I've seen grow over these past couple of years for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Because before, I mean, the only way you can get an audience is maybe, I mean, you going up to person directly, every single person, or if you had money, you went to go buy a billboard. But now you could easily set up a podcast, market yourself to people with similar interest, and it could be a platform for you to maybe sell your products because you already know that the market's there because those people are into hair. So you already know that the market's there and they're interested in that topic. So this could really be a platform, and that's what I want to talk about later too. How they could use podcasting to make money based off other business people and um, people's advice, even though they talk about different topics. But you could still use the same principle to make money with it. And that, and I know even though we talked about customer service, that's something that's
There's
still
still
pet
more
peeve of me,
episodes to come
man.
on that.
That's still
Yeah,
pet
yeah.
peeve, man.
You know, one topic I would personally be interested in to hear you talk about when, as it relates to being a barber, is if you're a new person in town. You know, you left your former city, your former barber, who you had a long-term relationship with, but now because of a move, you don't have a barber, at least a barber that you recognize
Yeah.
or you trust. What what would you say? Again, for a future podcast, how does one go about selecting a barber versus it just being a random, hey, here's a
Yeah.
shop in my neighborhood, let me go to them and see what they can do? Are there some practical
It's
suggestions
interesting.
you
Yeah,
can
that's
give
interesting.
as to what
Man,
barber I should choose?
That's a good question. And I think now we live in an age where it's easier to do that because before all you had was word of mouth or your own personal experience. You had to go around to each barbershop. And that's how I did it before. And now with many good results.
Yeah, I think we both did.
It just wasted a
Had
bunch of
both
time and
fair hair.
had dozens of people cut my hair.
Yeah.
But now we live in an age with social media. Like most barbers, especially young barbers, they all have like an Instagram from what I've seen. So I think by you simply searching on Instagram, and I actually by searching Yelp too. I mean, there's so many forms of ratings nowadays. If you go on Google, a lot of times if it's a business, they'll have ratings on there. And I'm really big on ratings. Like whenever I buy something on Amazon, I do my research because I don't want to waste money on a product that I already know a dozen people already said has this malfunction or so on. Same thing too. When I would go and check maybe Yelp or Google online and view the ratings, a lot of the people would say like, "Man, this place has horrible customer service. They don't greet you. They're rude. They have profanity music. They have inappropriate movies playing while I took my kids." And there's always going to be some negative reviews, but as long as it's not all uniform, like everybody's leaving negative reviews.
As long as there's
Yeah.
more good reviews, they
Yeah.
outweigh the bad ones. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I had found
That's
a
a
good
good topic.
barber.
It's a good topic.
I had found a good barber before this one, just basically off Google. I searched Google Maps, barbers in my area. Then I read all the reviews, and I found and I found a really good barber by my area just based off of reviews because everybody was saying amazing things off of him.
Okay.
And I hope to one day get to that level where my customers appreciate me enough to take 1 minute out of their day to write a review because it would help my business.
Yeah. You know, a lot of businesses, barbers included, feel that as long as they provide a good product, and in the case of barbering, a nice haircut, that's all that really matters.
Yes.
And perhaps at the end of the day, that is what seems to matter. But I'm glad that we had a chance today to talk about your brand, your vision, and what your overall strategy and focus is, because I personally believe that there's more to it than just a good product.
No, we're gonna go in depth on that one later, but man, there's been some good conversation had behind the barber chair.
Nice.
And I hope to bring that to other people as well.
Well, today's conversation, like we talked about at the very beginning, you have a story, obviously, and even in this past hour, there's some things that I have personally taken away that makes me go, maybe I should start looking at what I'm doing.
Definitely, yeah, I had that feeling too, yeah.
And I'm sure that your audience too. I'm sure you're going to get all kind of responses, all kind of commentary on this podcast as to how it has caused someone to relook at what they're currently doing and what steps they can take in their life to maybe pursue their dream job. So thank you for having me very much, Josue and Adrian.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure having you.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. And before I forget, now that I mentioned that I had just recently found the name Behind the Barber, I just want to remind everybody that now you actually can reach out to me by Gmail or on Instagram. You can reach me on Gmail at behindthebarber@gmail.com. So you can't forget it. Again, it's behindthebarber@gmail.com. Or my Instagram page, which I just loaded up. I only got one picture, but I'll be sure to get some more out. So my Instagram handle is behindthebarber_podcast.
Behind the Barber _podcast.
Exactly.
Go ahead and go to Instagram right now and go request that follow.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully by the time this comes out, I would have already been approved on Apple Podcast. So you could just simply search Behind the Barber and I'll come up.
And don't forget to leave a awesome review for us too.
Yeah, definitely, man. If you guys found any value on this, I mean, again, I'm not charging you guys for this. I'm not making money off you listening.
Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, that's the master plan. But yeah, if you found any value off this, I would really appreciate a honest review. Even if, and you don't have to sugarcoat it too. You can let me know what you liked and what you didn't like. I'd really appreciate it. And again, we've talked about some topics, but if, as a reminder, if there's anything you're interested on hearing or want to hear my take on, or want to request somebody to be interviewed on there, just send me a message at behindthebarber@gmail.com.
And that's the quickest way to reach you, I'm assuming.
Yes.
All right, sounds good.
That or the DMs. You know what? Actually, probably the quickest way would probably be Instagram, because I'm on
either or.
Instagram.
Maybe.
And don't you have a website that's coming soon?
Yes, it is coming
nice.
soon, and I appreciate that, Will, because I know you're actually the one helping me with that. So soon, it's going to be www.behindthebarber.com. So as long as you can remember Behind the Barber, you can kind of find me.
Pretty much
anywhere.
find you anywhere on any social media.
Oh yeah. Oh, and also too, I'm on SoundCloud.
And that's Behind the Barber?
Yeah,
Straight
just
up?
Behind the Barber.
Okay. So be on the lookout for that website. It will be coming up soon.
Yeah, definitely. But again, I appreciate you guys, and we'll hopefully have you on again some other time.
All right. Thank you very much.
It was an awesome podcast, guys.
All right, man. Y'all be easy.